Hello, and welcome to All Our Little Messes, a podcast focused on healing through intentional conversations about parenting, relationships, religion, and more. I am your host, Veronica Winrod, and I'm so happy to have you here, listening in on my thoughts today. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, welcome back to All Our Little Messes. Today we're discussing holistic or natural healing within the world of Western medicine and whether there can be a balance between the two within the culture of pharmaceuticals. So this is a very nuanced topic. So I have a guest for you guys that utilizes this balanced approach within her practice. She's a holistic psychotherapist with over 20 years of experience in the field. Hi, Keri. It's great to have you on today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, it's been great. I'm really excited to talk about like your experience with Western medicine and within your practice, because I know you try to approach therapy with like a holistic approach to like to the entire body and stuff. So what can you tell me about that?
I do. I really think that, whenever we're addressing anything, you need to look at the entire body,
Right.
And the lifestyle that goes along with it. And mental health is no different.
Right.
So, when I was traditionally trained, it was you listen to their symptoms and then this is how you treat it with therapy and meds. But there's so much more to it than that.
Right.
Like what if somebody's blood sugar is all over the place and that's creating moodiness? Like what if somebody's not sleeping well? Like there's so many other options to look at that you really need to examine. You have to look at their entire lifestyle. And I feel like when I incorporate that the clients get so much better, so much quicker because you're looking at the root cause.
Right. Yeah. No, actually, my husband and I were actually just talking about that the other day because I recently switched therapists, and like one of the first questions she asked me was, how much vitamin D do you get? Because we live in an area where there's just like very little sun in the winter, and like it's been very cloudy here. And so she's like, how much sleep and how much vitamin D you've been getting? And I was just like, oh, that's weird. I'm used to people asking me, what are your symptoms of depression?
Yes. I love that you asked about your vitamin D levels because again, like that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very important. I mean, but then, how you also have the flip side of that where, people will try to approach, medicine and therapy and things like that with such a holistic approach that they kind of forget that there is a balance between the two and that there should be a balance.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah. And like, I've heard stories of people approaching, cancer treatments and things like that and trying to cure it with, herbs and essential oils. And it's just, it doesn't.
When we talk about mental health and medications, there's a place for them.
Right.
Especially when, if you're looking to change your lifestyle in order to get healthier and feel better, it doesn't happen overnight. Right. It takes a while to start eating better, to get in a good exercise program, to be sleeping better. And in the meantime, it's like, you don't want to just sit there and suffer. Why not then utilize some medication in order to help you feel better to make these changes? It's really hard to make changes when we're super depressed or really anxious. So I see it as almost like this boost to really help you get on your path and then see, okay, do I need this? Or have I been able to kind of fix it without that? And if you still need it, then you still need it. And there's no shame in that.
Right. And I feel like within certain circles too, there's like this huge, there is a lot of shame to getting mental health help and to actually using pharmaceuticals to get there to like, fix your problems. And to me, that's very sad because, like they're a very useful tool.
Absolutely. Very useful. And, it's not like it's a quick fix. It's not like you're going to go on meds and feel 100% better and okay, everything is done. You still have to do the work. You still have to do the work to feel better. So, it always pains me when I hear somebody say, well, I don't want to take the easy way. It's not easy. Going on medication is not easy. Making lifestyle changes is not easy. None of this is easy. And I feel it's so important to remove the aspect of shame. Remove the aspect of shame from getting mental health, treatment, from being on medication, from making, smart lifestyle changes. There's just no shame in any of this.
Yes. Yes. And it's very sad that people see that as shameful and as almost like weak. I had a friend who she was having some depressive episodes, and so she went to see a therapist, and I think the appointment lasted 15-20 minutes, and she came out with a prescription for some kind of anti-anxiety medication. Mm-hmm. And she was ashamed of it. And I was just like, that is so sad. I mean, this girl could hardly get out of bed. She was really struggling, and they helped her a lot, but she was so ashamed of taking them because of the stigma that was in like our friend circle, mainly because of the stigma that was around, being depressed and, having to go to therapy or whatever the thing was. Mm-hmm. She wouldn't tell anybody that she was on them, but she was like obviously acting different.
Right.
But she wouldn't tell
interesting people. Choosing to take care of yourself, choosing to take care of your mental health. It's a scary choice, and it's a brave choice.
Mm-hmm.
It is so much easier to kind of just hide in your bed and say, forget it. I can't. I don't want to. I don't want to try. I don't want to attempt to get myself help. To be able to put one foot in front of the next, to make that phone call for help, mm-hmm. that is being brave. That is doing something that is hard. It is
hard. Very hard. It is so hard. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember when I made that first phone call, it took me like 3 months to actually make the phone call. I had the number saved in my phone to call the clinic, and I would not call them because I didn't want to talk about what was going on. I was just like, it's totally fine. I'll get over it. One day I'll wake up and I'll totally snapped out of it. It'll be fine. It'll be cool.
Right. That's what so many people say. It's totally fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. We're fine. Everything's okay.
And it's okay that it's not fine.
Yeah. Like, we're not supposed to be fine all the time. Life happens. Things happen to us. And like, people seem to forget that because they're stuck in this cycle of, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. I got this. I don't need help. And
it goes back to a bigger issue as well, like being able to ask for help.
Yeah.
Just in general everyday life.
Yeah.
It is okay to ask for help. It is okay, to say, hey, can you pick up my kids? Like, hey, like, I need help around the house. Hey, like, it is okay to ask for help. We are not supposed to be able to do it all on our own. Like, no. We are supposed to have a village. Like, that is what helps us.
I actually touched on that like a couple episodes ago on this podcast. We actually touched on that with another guest about the fact that there is not a village anymore. And so the mental health crisis has become bigger.
Yes.
Because there is no village. There's no foundation for people to fall back on when they actually do need help.
Right.
And so they struggle even more. And so they become more independent and more, I'm fine, I got this. And they really don't. And then, that filters down to affect our children and our relationships, our spouses and everything like that. And it just has an absolute snowball effect.
Yes, it really does.
Yeah.
It's interesting, when we talk about asking for help and, in any aspect of life, the kids that I work with, so often they'll say like, well, my parents do it all. Like, they don't get help. And then we talk about like, and what are you seeing? Well, I'm seeing they're frustrated. I'm seeing they have no patience. I'm seeing they're not happy. Right. Because we have to ask for help. We can't do it all on our own.
Yeah. And I mean, if you don't have that village, then like, I feel like therapy or just even having someone to talk to, even if it's not, traditional therapy, even just having someone to talk to can be so beneficial because like, again, everyday life stressors, especially in today's modern society, really wear a person down. And like, we need that support. But
yes, even just hearing from somebody else, like, oh, I understand. I understand what you're going through is so important. I was giving a talk at a high school for parents recently, and a parent, very bravely shared. She's like, we're falling apart in my house in terms of mental health. She's like, it's a mess. And a woman from the back said, wait, you live down the street from me. I thought you had it all together. Like, I thought that you were judging me and hearing me, upset with my kids. And she's like, no. And I took a step back. I said, nobody has it all together. Nobody. And that's why, we need to be okay with getting help and removing that shame from it. And not having it together, it's not a flaw. It's just because we're human.
Right. Right. And I feel like this was, again, my husband and I talk a lot about like mental health and like, the lack of support for families and things like that. So we were actually talking about how it's almost, I mean, I don't want to say it's a conspiracy, but it almost feels like a conspiracy sometimes where you have this system that kind of isolates families. And then you have, the way our food industry and everything is set up as well, which further like breaks down our bodies and affects our mental health and everything. And so it's very difficult for people to even use like the everyday things around them, like food and,
Yeah.
herbs and vitamins and things like that, when like they're so degraded and broken down, like they can't utilize the
Right. That
tools that
brings
they
up such
should be able to utilize.
Yeah, that brings up such an important aspect of mental health when we talk
Yeah.
about, holistic approaches, food.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the food that is in our supermarkets is not real food.
Well, and even like the organic labels, like I have started to have to read the organic labels because even though it says organic on it, they will still sneak stuff in because, the FDA and the USDA do allow certain ingredients within organic products. And so, like, I'm having to even read the labels on organic products sometimes because I'm just like,
Yeah.
this isn't healthy. Like, what?
Right. And that's exhausting.
Oh,
It's
it's so
exhausting to
exhausting.
really have to go to the supermarket and read every label and,
Yeah.
this intense meal prep and everyone's schedules are all over the place. It's
Yes.
not easy. But when we talk about mental health, especially, like, so many of our chemicals are actually made in our gut.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need to be eating well. We
Yeah.
need nutrients unless we are not going to feel well.
Yeah. Like over the last couple of months, my husband has been gone a lot and he didn't sleep very well because his work schedule was anything from like 16 to 20 hours a day. So he wasn't sleeping very well. He wasn't always eating very well. And so over the last like 3 months, he started experiencing serious like gut problems, like
Yeah.
gut health problems, and just feeling worn down and tired and depressed and like all of these symptoms. And at first I was just like, he needs to come home. And but then I was just like, well, yeah, he needs to come home obviously, but like his sleep and vitamin D and the lack of good food, and he hasn't been taking all of these, like he takes a lot of like herbal supplements and
Mhm.
stuff like that really help, and he hasn't been taking any of those. And it was just like, it was such a striking difference from when he left to when he came home, because he hadn't been taking them for the span of like 6 months, and that was it.
Yeah.
And his entire body had just completely broken down from the lack of good food and like vitamins and proper nutrition.
Yes, like, our body needs this good stuff in order to
Yes.
function properly, especially when we talk about mental health. And, you
Yes.
bring up gut issues. So many people are experiencing gut issues. And again, it's
Mhm.
like, it goes back to, oh, it's fine. It's just me. Like, it's just who I am. Like, no,
It's
like,
not.
it's not. There's a problem. Please address it. Um,
Yes. Yes, I know. And like, I
um,
mean, it's funny too because like, even like every system in our body is connected. So what affects our gut or our heart health or something like that can often affect, systems in our brain and systems in our lungs and, our what's the word I'm looking for? Like our nervous system and things
mhm.
like that. And so, and people forget that.
Yes.
They forget that. And so, like, when you fix one problem, it's amazing to see the difference in another system of your body just because you fix one part.
Yes, it really is, because people
Yes.
forget that it's all connected. You're right, especially with, like,
Yeah.
the mind. Your mind is connected to your entire body.
Yes.
It's so important to understand that and recognize it. And, when we talk about food, the other really important area that I want to touch on is
Mhm.
hydration. Water consumption is
Mhm.
so overlooked and so important.
Mhm.
We are seeing studies starting to come out that are showing, like, if you're not hydrated, not only can your cells not function and, your physical health goes down, but also, like, you could be angry. It could lead to anger. It could lead to lack of focus. All of
Yeah.
that's really important to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be as simple as just drink a few more glasses of water a day.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when you look at what people are drinking on a daily basis, not a lot of people are really drinking water.
No, it's sport drinks and juice and sodas and things that actually dehydrate our bodies.
They dehydrate our bodies. They are not good for our guts. They spike our blood sugar. We
Mm-hmm.
look at teens and we're like, oh, they're so moody. Are they just so moody, or how much of this is because of their lifestyle of a horrendous
Yeah.
diet, not being hydrated, and lack of sleep?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like we talk about food and hydration for teenagers. I
Yeah.
mean, they have vending machines in every high school.
Yes. Yeah.
It's all right there. I mean, they eat that stuff all day long and they have easy, ready access to it. And then we wonder why
Right. Why
this,
they're crashing every day,
yeah,
why all of a
every
sudden they
day.
can't focus, why they're moody, why they're upset, because their
Yeah.
blood sugars are up and down all day long. And what's
Mhm.
exciting is that it's, been recently that more and more research is really coming into play with how our body and our health
Mhm.
affects our mind. Because this is something I've known for quite some time. And it's, what I've written books about, and it's what I practice and, talk about. But it's so nice to actually see the research that says, yes, blood sugar is an issue when it comes
Yes.
to our mental health.
Like, yes, I feel so vindicated right
Yes.
now.
Water really is important. I knew it.
Yes, yes. Yes. Yeah, so I kind of want to go into like the next, so there was something I actually wanted to talk about was, people also have a hard time being able to weigh the pros and cons of a treatment without being prejudiced. So, the people that are more naturally minded
Mhm.
or that have, certain religious beliefs or things like that, there seems to be a trend of people discounting certain treatments because they're not natural.
Yeah.
And I mean, I recently heard of someone who actually denied cancer treatments because he'd heard about taking THC instead. And while I believe that THC can be very helpful and does have its place, like denying actual cancer treatments because you read on the internet that THC is better is just like it's so dangerous.
Mhm.
It's so dangerous, and people have developed this mentality that modern medicine is evil and it's out to get you, and so I have to stick to everything herbal and everything
Mhm.
natural, and so they're denying like life-saving treatments and things like that, and it's really sad and it's really scary.
It's hard because, with anything in life, there needs to be a balance.
Right.
This is no different. And
Mm-hmm.
I think when you talk about the people who have gone, really to one side, it's unfortunately been because, not all the research has been truthful coming out of the medical community. We've seen that as an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But also, not all the research coming out of the more holistic area isn't truthful either. So it's kind of one
Yeah.
of those things like, what are you consuming and, on the internet, and what are you consuming to kind of form your opinions? And I think it's
Right.
really important to look critically at both ends.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I actually had experience with that myself just a couple days ago. So my son genetically he has very soft enamel on his teeth, and so he
Mhm.
has problems with cavities and decay and stuff. And he's still a toddler, so it's been a rough ride the last couple of years trying to just keep his teeth in his head. And we a couple years ago we done a bunch of research on fluoride because everybody's like, again, there was like this huge thing on the internet a couple years ago where fluoride is evil, fluoride is
Mhm.
it's out to get you, it's been banned in all these countries.
Mhm.
And so I did some research on it, and I was just like, okay, we're not doing fluoride. So I got rid of all our fluoride toothpaste, and I replaced it with fluoride free, and we started denying all fluoride treatments at the dentist. Da, 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 da. And then this last appointment, the doctor looked at me. He's like, you really need to do fluoride. Like, you really need to do it. You need to look into it again. Do some more research. So I did. I did more research, and I was actually looking into it. And um, like, I feel like the websites I looked on when I did my first bout of research had really kind of just tried to scaremonger me into not doing fluoride. and talked about how, osteoporosis and,
Mhm.
it's been banned in China and it's been banned in the UK or whatever
Mhm.
countries in Europe and all this because, it breaks down our bones and it's poisonous. And they'd almost made it out to seem like a chemical byproduct, waste
Mhm.
product.
Yes.
And so when I started researching, I actually came across a couple articles that said it was a naturally occurring mineral that
Mhm.
you could find all throughout nature, and that the only times it became dangerous was because when we had basically a system overload of fluoride within our bodies, and that's when it became dangerous. And so like the fact that it's within like our water
Right.
and like some of our food and our toothpaste
Mhm.
and a bunch of our healthcare products and stuff like that, that's when it became dangerous. And so like I was just like, oh, well, that makes much more sense. And so, like, because I did all that research, I was like, okay, so
Mhm.
I can find ways to kind of mitigate the overload of the fluoride within my son's body and
Mhm.
within my body. And, maybe we can use fluoride to actually help his teeth.
Right. And I think that goes back to like, being able to strike a balance.
Yes.
Because, the research on fluoride based upon applied topically or ingested is very
Hmm.
different.
Yes.
And, ingested, it is a known neurotoxin.
Hmm.
And applied, there is some benefit.
Yeah.
So I think it comes back again to striking more of a balance of what do you individually need?
Hmm.
Some people just happen to have great teeth. They may not choose to put fluoride on, and that's perfectly fine. Other people may really struggle with their teeth, and then that may be the right choice for them, and that's perfectly fine. So again, I think it goes back to, what does your individual body need?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
no
And
shame, regardless of what you're picking.
yeah, and like and in his case, his individual body needed topically applied
Right.
fluoride. And I was like so caught up in all this research that said, ingested fluoride
Hmm.
without even really talking about the topically applied stuff.
Right.
The ingested fluoride was, so dangerous. And basically, we were poisoning ourselves and it crosses the blood brain barrier and
Hmm.
everything else that they were. I freaked out and I was like, no fluoride.
Hmm.
And again, they hadn't really gone into the differences between the two. And
Right.
so, yeah, and I'm hoping it didn't affect his teeth, but we'll see. I mean, at this point, I'm just like, I can't make things any worse. So,
Mhm.
poor kid. But yeah, like, yeah, there has to be a balance. People need to do like,
Right. Well,
they
that's with
can't,
anything with life. There has to be a balance.
yes,
Very rarely is something all bad or all good.
yes,
There's a lot of
exactly.
in between. There's a lot of gray area with everything in our life.
Hmm. Yes, exactly. And so, yeah, you need to, like, I feel like you need to go into every medical situation, not automatically discounting one treatment over the other
Right.
because of
Do
that.
your own research and pull in, everything on both sides and also then decide what is best for you and what makes the most sense for you.
Yeah, for you and your body. I mean, because like, I mean, in a lot of cases, you do know your body best.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, and that kind of actually leads into like the next thing I wanted to talk about was like the symptomatic approach to illness that
Mhm.
our current healthcare model really seems to take.
Yes.
And the fact that there's just so many band-aid solutions
Yes.
in medicine and within our healthcare and our mental health care especially. There's just like so many band-aid solutions, and nobody ever seems to get to the root of the problem. And like I have my own opinions on why they don't get to the root of the problem,
Mhm.
but we can
Right.
talk about that in another episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, they only seem to treat the symptoms, and there's no effort or work to get to the root of a problem. And so people continually they keep getting sick.
Absolutely.
And like
And
you see that a lot in mental health care. Again, my friend, she went into an appointment and it was only a 15-minute appointment. She walked out with, a prescription for an anti-anxiety med.
right. And I think that's unfortunately incredibly common.
Yes.
That people are going to either their primary care doctor or a psychiatrist and they're getting a script within minutes and no
Mm-hmm.
talk about, are you seeing a therapist? What is your
Yeah.
plan to work on this? Like, what else is going on in your life? And I think that's when we talk about, some people kind of mistrusting the system. It's because of stuff like that they're seeing where they're just kind of given pills and no bigger solution and no root
Right.
cause is being investigated. And that's not the way to go about doing this. Like, we need to be looking further. We can't just constantly throw medication without anything else happening.
Mhm.
Medication, when it works its best is in, hand in hand with lifestyle changes or therapy.
Right. Right. And like, when I scheduled one of my first appointments for therapy, like I couldn't help thinking, I was like, if I had gone to my PCP and talked to them being like, I don't feel so great. I'm really depressed and I'm having a hard time getting out of bed every day. The first thing they would have done is, write me a prescription for some kind of antidepressive or anti-anxiety med. And I'm like, and I would be on those meds right now. And who knows what they would be doing to my body? It wouldn't be fixing my problems because I would still be depressed.
Mm-hmm.
I would still have like overwhelming anxiety. I would still have all of this trauma I hadn't worked through.
Right.
So like I'm just like I'm really glad now that I actually like called a therapist instead and was like, "Hey,
Right.
I want to fix this. I think this is what's causing it."
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I fortunately didn't have to experience that band-aid approach that so many people in society seem to have to experience. And like
Yeah.
I've seen some of my friends go on them when I was younger, and it was like this snowball effect of side effects, and then more meds for the side effects, and it would just get worse, and the problem would compound, and it was just so sad to just see them change so fast.
Absolutely. It's, and again, it brings into this bigger issue. Like, when you look at, what we're even consuming on TV, like all the ads, it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, you have a sleep problem, take this med. And that's, it can't
Yeah.
be just that.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, all the TV, that's funny that you bring up the TV ads because like I'm constantly seeing them. It's like I feel like it's like 5 out of 10, a good 50% of the ads on like TV and YouTube, and
Mhm.
they're all, here's a new med. Ask your doctor about da
Yeah.
da 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 if you're experiencing such and such. And I'm just like, that is just so strange to me.
Right. And other countries don't actually allow ads for these pharmaceuticals, where, we're one of the few.
Yeah. It's just so weird. Like when you actually stop and think about a patient being like, "Hey, I heard about a new med. I want to take it." Go and like, going and
Yeah.
asking your doctor, "Please write me a prescription. I saw an ad on TV." Like it's just so strange when you say it out loud.
Absolutely. And, if you're going into a doctor's office and there's stuff going on, the doctor could then assess and say, okay, I think maybe you need, X, Y, or Z.
Yes.
But to be learning about it off, a 20-minute or 20-second, ad on TV and then thinking that's the right choice, I think, we need to have a bigger conversation.
Pharmaceutical companies really do run the medical industry in some cases.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. No, and so like and it's just like, situations like that where there's just like so many band-aid solutions just thrown at us 24/7 all the time. It really just goes to show that we need to be treating the whole person. It's not
100%.
always one problem. There's always it's little problems feeding into one problem. We have to treat the whole person within healthcare and within mental health, especially too.
Yes. And I really do think we're starting to see a shift more towards that,
Hmm.
slowly but surely, which is, fantastic and much needed.
Right.
Because again, like, we're kind of in a mental health crisis right now. It's pretty
Yeah.
bad out there in terms of mental health. People are really suffering. And I think what they're seeing is that the old way is not really successful. We need to
Hmm.
take a bigger look at this, and we really need to combine a healthy lifestyle, good supplements, and if medication's needed, medication, but it's a combination approach. We need to be treating our bodies better.
Yeah, I mean, like, and medication shouldn't be, the end goal. Here's medication. This will fix your problem. Like, I feel like medication should be a tool to get us to our,
Mhm.
desired result of, actually being healed. But I feel like so often people just use it as the end goal. Oh, I'm taking a med. I'm fixed.
Right. Yeah. No,
And
it needs to be part of the treatment plan, but not the entire treatment plan.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So no, I feel like that's definitely something that needs to be addressed in modern healthcare too, because I've actually had experience with that myself with certain problems within pregnancy where they would, try to push meds for a problem that I was having. And I was just like, well, is it going to fix it? And they're like, oh no, it's not going to fix it. It'll just help you feel better.
Right.
I'm just like, I don't like that. I don't like that approach. I don't like that idea.
Yeah.
So I actually had to go to a naturopath, and they were able to help a lot more. And it was really nice being able to actually fix the problem and like actually see results instead of just, a Band-Aid.
Yes, I think a lot of people have had those similar experiences. I know I have. Years ago, I had some really bad stomach issues, and I went to a doctor, and they're like, "Oh, you have, IBS, and here's some meds." I'm like, "But why do I have?
Why do I have IBS?
I don't know. It's just, it is what it is, and here's the medication." And instead of going on it, I actually changed what I was eating and saw a world of difference, and have never suffered since. And that worked for me, and that was great. But I think that we always kind of need to take a step back and say, yeah, what is the root cause? What else is going on? Even just a few years ago, I had massive tooth pain, and my dentist was like, oh, just go see the specialist. And I walked in, I was there for not even 5 minutes. And she's like, you need a root canal. And I was like, well, are we positive? And she's like, yeah. And I went to another doctor for a second opinion. And he's like, I think your sinuses are just really congested and it's putting pressure on. And I went to acupuncture to clear up my sinuses, and absolutely, that's what it was. I did not get a root canal. It was sinus pressure. And I've noticed now that I actually get that sinus pressure at the same time every year because I have some type of outdoor allergy.
Oh my goodness. So they would have drilled out your tooth.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, that is insane.
Right. And again,
but that happens every day.
Right. But a lot of people maybe don't.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, just, treating the symptoms of illness, and like you were having tooth pain, but it wasn't tooth pain. It's like, and that kind of ties into like, the whole, when you have symptoms in one part of your body, it could be, like when you have illness in like your heart or something like that. I've heard of cases where it can present as abdominal pain.
Yes.
And so, with modern medicine, they would automatically just focus on the stomach area and completely forget about the rest of the body. When in fact, it wasn't your stomach at all. It was your heart, or in your case, it wasn't your teeth. It was your sinuses and allergies.
It's like, all connected.
Yes.
And when we talk about, especially kids, when it looks like they have, an attention issue in the classroom, is it an attention issue, or are they not having enough protein? Is their blood sugar all over the place? Are they not hydrated? Like, we need to look at these things. Are they not getting enough exercise and they just have too much pent up energy? Like,
are they not being mentally stimulated enough on a daily basis? I mean, you can take these poor kids, and you stick them in a classroom for 8 hours a day, and then you wonder why they have, attention deficit issues or whatever. And yeah, like young kids are not meant to be put in one place for 8 hours a day with no kind of physical stimulation at all.
Yes. School is very different now than it used to be. And it is very challenging. And I know for myself, there's no way I could sit in a school all day long. And
I think back to
pay attention.
I think back to what I was like when I was in school, and I was just like, oh my gosh, it was 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Private school. We would have 15-minute recesses every 4 hours. And I was like 6, 7 years old, being forced to sit this tiny little desk and do my math or whatever. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, how did I survive?
Right. Because, that's not how we're made to be. Little kids are not meant to sit that long. That doesn't mean that they have a problem. It means our system has a problem.
Exactly. And then it affects them mentally. And then, kids, they get depressed from that lack of physical stimulation, and the lack of, like movement helps our mental health so much. I mean, that's why mental health providers will tell you exercise. And there's a reason for that.
There's some great studies on exercise comparing exercise alone to antidepressants, and exercise did better.
Yes. And so then you wonder, these kids from the time they're 5 years old until they graduate high school have such a lack of movement within their bodies. And then we wonder why there's such a huge mental health crisis. We
Right.
have all of this junk food, lack of exercise, all of these things that are feeding into this mental health crisis within our kids. And we're just perpetuating the system.
Yes.
Like, we built the system that created this problem. And then we're sitting there wondering, how did this happen? I don't understand what's going on. It's like, we did it. We created it.
We did. And the solution is not continuing to throw more and more money at it through the schools either. You got to get back down to the foundations. These kids, there's way too much pressure. They need weekends off from homework at a bare minimum. You need to get back down to basics.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and also I feel like mental health care also starts at a very young age too. Like I hear of parents more and more every day who are just making it a practice to take their kids to a therapist like every 2 weeks, once a month.
Yeah.
Just to kind of build that foundation of, mental health is not something to be scared of.
Absolutely.
And it's okay to struggle.
Yeah.
Like, I understand. And so and I feel like that's very healthy. Like, talk about what's going on. And I try to encourage even my 4-year-old to talk about what's going on.
Yes. And it's just like, if you're struggling in school, you get a tutor.
Yeah.
Life also is a struggle at times, and we need to know how to navigate, and we need the skills to do that.
Yeah. And, and if parents are feeling overwhelmed and don't know how to cope with, a child that is having struggles and having problems, and it's fine to ask for help. That doesn't make you a bad parent. It actually makes you a good parent, a strong parent, recognizing that I don't have the skills or the tools to help my kid. Let me go get somebody that can.
It makes you a great parent to be able to recognize that and to be able to put your own ego aside and say, I need to bring in help.
Yes. Yes. And, and I think that more parents should do that and not be scared of it, and should actively try to break away from this model that we've built around mental health care and around our kids of, I got this, I'm strong, I don't need any help, because that it does directly feed into our kids. Even if it's like a subconscious thing, they see what we're doing and they mimic everything we do. And so they're going to see how we treat mental health, and they're going to take that on, and they're going to grow up the same way. And the problem is just going to perpetuate and get worse. So
yes, parents are definitely leading by example.
Yes. So, well, this was an amazing conversation. There was a lot of great information here. So thank you very much, Keri.
Thank you so much. It was such a great talk. I really, really enjoyed.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of All Our Little Messes. Please let us know how much you enjoyed it below, and add any questions you have about this episode. Also, don't forget to follow us on Patreon for amazing exclusive perks, including early access to podcast episodes and bonus episodes every month. We've also recently added a support group for all of our paid patrons. You can check us out on Facebook and Instagram for daily updates and insights that mirror podcast topics. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.